You know, it's kind of hard to follow an announcer and stuff. But my dad told me when I was a young kid, you remember these things. He said, you always look up to women and children and respect your elders. And that's why I've looked up to Clem all my life. Well, this is quite an honor to be here for an old country boy. But I want to thank all of my family that came from long ways and all my friends. There's people here from 15 states, and they start from Florida to New Jersey to the Dakotas, California and all, plus the ones in between. I want to start off, and I want to congratulate the Cowboy Hall of Fame and their staff and everything from all the great things that they've done. And I want to start off when I first went to the PRCA office, it was in 1953. There's one little room and it's about 16 foot by 20. And he said, myself went in there, there was one and the secretary and Gene Lamb, which started the sports news. They'd had 2 issues before that. In this little room, they called me to come to work for them. And I said, I kind of thought a little bit about it, and I said, I got to have one concession in this. I still got to compete where I'm at or Colorado up here on the weekends. So he said, that is fine. Well, everything was fine about that till I won a little bit along. And then they said, what the hell are we paying him for? And he gets to compete. But I still kept on doing it. I won second at Cheyenne that year, and several other pretty good sized rodeos. I hadn't quit completely, but that was one. Now this room, I went there and there's one file cabinet, one little desk, and 2 tables, and 2 chairs, and one little old typewriter. I quit before I went to work. He told me about Mrs. Haskins, so I went and talked to her and took her and her husband out to dinner. And you know why she went to work for me? She said, I didn't think you'd leave if I didn't say I'd go to work for you. Tony Haskins, would you please stand? I don't know, is Gene Lamb here? I don't know whether he's here or not. But he's the man that started the Rodeo Sports News. There'd been 2 issues put out before that. So all of this stuff is moved. But they had a point award system, and they had a great big book about like this. And there's 3,000 little pieces of paper in that. And every time you open it, somebody won something, you put those in there. This lady that helped with that thing, one day she opened it up, there's 3,000 little pieces of paper all over the floor. And she went to crying. I said, don't cry, we'll fix it. I changed that system. Now, I'm going to start about some first in this business when I went to work for them. The first thing I done, incorporated it. It hadn't been since 1936. I went along without that. I got that done. I signed the first television contract for there, and the first one was at Fort Worth, Texas, but I signed the first television contract. And Mr. Billy Bob Watts was a dear friend of mine, and most people said you can't get along with him. Well, I knew him when I was a little kid. And he was a different man, but he was a man when you made a deal, he was there. And I went down there and they said, you can't do this. The ropers and doggers said, you can't get this done. I said, what do you want done? They said, we want the chute put in the other end. It's always been at the same end as the bucking chutes. I called the man up and went down there and I visited with him. We had dinner together and a couple of drinks. I didn't tell him what to do. I suggested, the people in the other end, there's no excitement down there. They throw them all off in front of the chutes and the doggers and everything there. And kind of suggested a few things. I got home about 2 or 3 days later. He called me up and he said, Buster, he said, tell me some figures we need for, size and all that stuff. He done it. I didn't tell him to do it, but I suggested and he got it done. That's the kind of a man he was. He's a very good friend of mine. And then another thing, I went down there to get $25 a performance raise at that rodeo. And I visited with him, and I come back with about 10 times that much raise. He said, what about all these free passes and everything that they get? I said, well, let's just have each performance for the contestants that are up, and then the others are available, they can buy them. This was a lot of money. to add to the purse. Go back home, and he called up and he said, Buster, you got to me. I forgot about all them matinees and nights. There was no people there then. But you got the money, he said. I said, don't worry about it. They won't prove it. Would you believe it? I knew when I made the deal with the man, the board wouldn't approve it. The timed eventers outvoted the board, and they didn't go for it. I got 10 times as much raise as I could ever got. Well, I got to move on. Mr. Cryer told me I didn't have too much time, but I got to say a few things. Now, the only rodeo that's ever been started out at $500 for one performance. I brought it to $2,500 in 2 years. It was Los Angeles, California, in the Coliseum. The year I leave and resign, the next year they dropped it to $1,800 and added another event. It don't make that much sense, but that's the only one, probably the only one ever will be. Now, the right to work law, I got to say something about this. They brought that to us, and I'm just an old country kid, but I went to Los Angeles and met with the toughest lawyers and all of those people, and my good friend Fred Dickerson was our lawyer. He said, Buster, you go down and find out what they want. I made the notes, found out what they want, and come back. We invited them to Denver. And he said, you whine these guys and you dine them, you take care of them. And then he said, I'll do the rest after that. I never will forget that. He said, and he told me how to set the board down, how to set our lawyers, and all that stuff. And when they got through, they left, and that was the end of anybody wanting to sue the RCA or get the deal. Well, it's not that way now, but whenever you got in troubles, you get a lawyer. You don't go get second or third, you get the number one. Everybody in the state of Colorado knows Fred Dickerson, the greatest lawyer that ever was, and this probably ever will be. Now, I'm going to start now to go to the national finals. When the first national finals started, I got a little piece of paper I got to get out here. There were 24 stock contractors at the first national finals. And out of those 24 stock contractors were there, there's 7 are still alive. But there's only 5 out of all of them that have been to every national finals rodeo. And there's one of them that's here today. There's 2 of them, I should say. Harry Vold and Neil Gay are the only 2 that are here. There's only 3 others that's been to all of them. That's quite a history. Now, I'm going to read this other to you here. This is a deal of the first national final. The stock contractors, the stock and all. And there was 172 head of bucking horses, 84 bulls, 78 saddle horses, 15 of them was pickup horses, 53 contestants horses, which are 135 head, 45 bulldog and steers, 60 roping calves, 2 mules, 1 jackass, 5 ducks, 1 coon, and 4 dogs. There, so that's the truth. And Harry Knight had the most stock that was there at that rodeo. He had 24 horses and 11 bulls, a total of 35 head. And there's nobody ever since then ever had that many stock from anybody. That's when they was worth $50 a head. Now they're worth $1,500. Wouldn't Harry like to have been there then? Now, over the years, Everett Coburn had more good bucking horses than anybody else had back in the years. And one of the little stock contractors, there was a lot of them that had a few good horses, a few good bulls. But there's one man that stood out in the little stock contractors, had the best of both ends. His name was Harley Tucker. And most of his rodeos, the bull riding was paid off on the ground. And that's the little stock contractors. Now I want to get back to Clem when they talk about when I was a kid, the first rodeo I went to. Canada Kid, which you all know was a great, but Snyder's was there and all of them. I borrowed the rope from him and he pulled my rope. Can you imagine beating the Snyders and the Griffiths and all them? Old country kid come out, never been on a bull before, but I did. I was lucked out. I won the split the steer stopping, which they don't have anymore. I won $58. I was working for $1 a day and I thought, Christ, I'd found heaven. gone. Now, Clem, you're not the only one I find. I found a lot of them. We didn't have any money then, but I got a friend that hears today. I find him $3,000, Howard Harris. I mean, I let you off easy. See, I didn't get you that bad. I got him for $3,000. You said he could afford it, Howard. That's what Clem said. You could afford it. Well, that's about all I got to say. I want to thank everybody and appreciate being in this. But I got a little story to tell you. My first school teacher called me the other night. And this is 1929. And she weighed about 90 pounds and 5 foot tall. She came out of Sacramento, California. And this was her first school. One-room schoolhouse, 8 grades, and there's about 25 kids. And then she said to me, she said, when I heard about this and all, she said, I want to congratulate you. She said, you was the nicest kid that I ever taught in all of these years. Well, that isn't really what she said. She said, you was the meanest little bastard ever was. But I used to I thought teachers was my favorite. You know, I thought I was their favorite kid because they kept me after school, whipped me more than anybody else. But I played the trick on this lady. We came to school horseback. There's a great big bull snake laying out there, and I caught him. And the kids, everybody had a key to the room, you know, in case you got anything. And I went in there, and she had a great big desk and a drawer. I put that big bull snake in there. So every morning, when the first thing she'd do is open that desk, and she had a big stick. You know, everybody come to attention. We always pledge allegiance to the flag. She opened that drawer, and that snake come out, fell on her, and she fell down, and it was a mess. Guess what? Buster had to stay after school again. Thank you all. Appreciate it.